We're joined by, oh, no, Fintan, I've already gone wrong. I've already gone wrong. I'm not editing it out, though. I'm going to let people see the human side of me, the side of me that just gets shit wrong, because not everybody sees that. I mean, unless you've met me or worked with me.
Or listen to any previous episode.
Yeah. You might be under the incorrect preconception that I am, in fact, infallible, and I'm not. So I forgot that I should be starting with, hello and welcome to the Gambling Files podcast, the podcast that likes to sit down sometimes when it wheezes, but not all the time. I'm your host, John Bruford, joined by my co-host. I'm not sure what order the pictures are going to be in if you're watching this, Fintan Costello. Fintan, hello.
Hey, John.
Now, you might notice that we have a peculiar grid formation today because we have two guests on the intro. What a time to be alive. We're joined by the, I don't know what you'd call them, the watchdogs of our corporate overlords? I don't know.
Enforcers, maybe?
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Ooh, perhaps if this were RoboCop, there would be Ed 209. No?
Good reference.
Thanks, Sadie. I was like, shit, has nobody here seen it? You're in Holland, Fintan. Paul Verhoeven's the greatest ever Dutch director. You should know this. Anyway, I digress slightly. Joined by the magnificent Sadie Walters, who's the lady behind ICE Vox and stuff, and Andy Ventris, who's the event director of ICE. Sadie, Andy, welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Hi, John. Hi, Fintan. Thanks for having us, guys.
It's all right. Andy, can I ask you a question first? Are you the dude that was brought in? Also, I should just say, excuse my laundry drying on the thing there. Fern's moving house and her dryer's broke, so she's got my dryer and I've got the kids, which seems like a really unfair swap. I've got to be honest.
You need a heated drying rack. They're really good.
I'd never even considered such a thing might exist.
Electric heating drying rack.
There you go.
But you don't when you've got a dryer, do you?
Yeah.
You're just like, I don't need that. I've got a dryer.
Well, there's stuff you can't put in the dryer, though. So
You shouldn't put in the dryer. You can put it in, you just shouldn't.
Yeah. That's my school of thinking.
It can't survive the dryer. It doesn't belong in my life.
Doesn't deserve to be here. It's like if I swat a spider or a fly or something and it doesn't die, then it's earned my respect and it can live among us.
Okay, John.
Maybe that was too big a sidestep. Now, Andy, are you the dude that was where you were? Did you used to be event director for a book publishing expo?
I did, yeah. I was event director for London Book Fair, so that's a big trade event for the publishing industry.
Is that just for books that are available in London, or are the books available elsewhere as well?
Generally, the books are available anywhere that you might purchase a book. Sometimes you can even buy them not in a city itself, online. There are other outlets for books than London, but the book fair itself was in London.
Okay, well, what venue was that at?
Olympia.
Ooh, maybe you can answer a question for me because this came up in a conversation I was having the other day. Is there still a Pizza Express at Olympia?
No, there isn't, and I can answer that question because there's a big redevelopment project happening at Olympia. And I haven't checked in there in some time because I haven't had a reason to. But one of the big things that was noticed was the Pizza Express went, because there's a new entrance through the Hammersmith Road end and no Pizza Express anymore. So I think your closest Pizza Express would be West Brompton if you're looking for it. But I can't confirm that.
There's so much other good pizza in London now.
I know.
There is. Yeah.
I used to use that. I used to live sort of around the corner-ish. And I used to use that Pizza Express sometimes because when there's not an event on, it was completely empty. It's like you had a Pizza Express to yourself. And I just really liked that. It felt like I'd booked the place. And it was massive.
Probably the reason why it closed down, to be honest.
I think
if it was only used during events by you.
But it was good. And I like a good pizza. There's some great Pizza Expresses in London. There's one.
The pizzas are getting smaller though.
Of course they are. It's it's that or raise the prices allegedly. But I swear there's one in West London that's in a. I think it's a former American embassy. It's absolutely stunning. It's beautiful. But anyway, I digress because we're actually here to talk about Clarion Gaming and ICE. And I don't know what you two are talking about pizza for. Let's get back on track, shall we? Andy, what's the experience? Is this your second ICE?
Yeah, that's right. So I started with Clarion about 18 months ago. So joined mid-event cycle for ICE 2023, which is obviously the first sort of full-size ICE back post-COVID. And yes, this is my first full run-in at the event, which I've been working on with the team, with Sadie and the rest of the team for the last several months.
That's, great. And I've got to be honest, I think if I were the event director for something like ICE, I would have even less hair than I currently have. And you've got such a luxuriant thatch that you must be doing something right.
Perhaps if that's how you judge success of a role.
Well, yeah, maybe
Fintan's doing well.
Maybe you're all just good at. Maybe you're all just good at self-care, and I don't mean onanism when I say that. I mean, actually, because it's a big thing in leadership now, isn't it? Like giving yourself some time and not just burning yourself out for glory. Do you know what I mean? I mean, maybe you don't know Fintan.
I've heard of that, but I wouldn't put it down. As much as I appreciate the compliment of my hair, and my hair appreciates it. I have just had my pre-show haircut, which I was at my barber's yesterday, and they knew that I was going on site, so they took particular care, obviously.
That's good.
But yeah, which I think is always nice when they really
respect to both your barbers and your parents. I think you've all done great work there.
But the reason that I'm looking comfortable the week before a show is because we got a great team and we're really excited about the event, to be honest. And this is the bit where all the work that we've been working on, everything we've been putting in over the last however many months kind of comes to fruition. So if you can't enjoy this time and the time on site and the event itself, then you're in the wrong business, really, doing what we do.
I think everybody's buzzing about this with the... Sorry, Fintan.
No, go ahead, John. It's okay.
I was going to say everybody's buzzing about, last show in London. They're expecting it's going to be a big one. And it's a funny time for the industry because, a lot of people have been laying off staff and stuff. And other sectors are doing really, really well. And it's kind of, there's a bit of a swings and roundabouts thing at the moment. But I've always said that ICE is like, people that are new to the industry, you'll get them sometimes saying to you, what are the events I should go to? And you say like, well, this one's quite good. This one's quite good. That one's fucking terrible. I always say that the one that you can't miss is ICE because it's the most international by some distance. It's the one where everybody from every gambling continent turns up. And yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm excited about it, and I hate going anywhere.
But it's also the entire industry. So, if you take something like a G2E, it's very US land-based focused, and the online bit's like a sideshow. When I was there a few years ago, it was like 10 booths kind of thing. And so, where with something like ICE, it's like the entire industry is there, which I think is. Which, you get that kind of flywheel effect. Well, if everybody's there, you've got to be there because everybody's there. And it becomes this self-fulfilling thing, which has obviously built up over the years, but I think makes it a must-attend event. So if we look ahead, so we're right now as we're recording, we're a week out. If we look ahead to next week, what are you guys most excited about? And what are the things happening over the week that you think, if you're coming to London, you're coming to ICE, you have to check these things out at the event?
Sadie?
Well, for me, obviously, ICE Vox starts on the Monday, which is the day before the actual show opens. That's always really exciting. And, we had an amazing comeback with ICE Vox last year, and we've become even bigger this year. So we're looking at about 1,500 people to walk through the doors of Vox. And so we've got the World Regulatory Briefing, which is kicking off on the Monday. And we've got Mr. Bill Hornbuckle from MGM, who's going to be headlining that, which is really exciting. And then we also have something called the International Casino Conference on the Monday. And there's a gentleman named Louis Free. He's a former director of the FBI. He's going to be talking about cybercrime. Can't think of a better person, actually, in the world. So that should be really exciting. So that's like my 2 beginning highlights, essentially, for the Monday.
You say Bill Hornbuckle's at the regulatory thing. Isn't he being interviewed by
Simon
Thomas, friend of the podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. We wanted to try something a little bit different because obviously we've got some amazing journalists and we've got our digital editorial team, but we thought it would be cool to try something slightly different, do like a bit of a peer-to-peer interview. So like I think Simon's the chairman now of the Hippodrome. So sort of like 2 CEO level people having a chat. So you're like the kind of, you get that experience of looking from the outside in at 2 really senior gaming people having a chat, basically.
Well, it's interesting you talk about seniority in that title because Fintan's the chairman of this podcast. So if you need a third up there.
Yeah, if you need another heavy hitter, give me a shout. No problems. But I'm looking through the Vox lineup, and there's actually a lot of friends of the podcast. There's Tom Neiman from Apollo Gaming Group.
Yeah, we love Tom Neiman.
Yep.
Alex Dixon, president of
Alex
Q Casino.
Dixon. Have you had Alex Dixon on? I'm really excited for his presentation.
Brilliant. He's amazing.
We both left the recording with Alex just being like, I'll do anything that man asks me ever in my life.
I'll just carry his briefcase around for like a couple of months just to listen and watch. It's
It's so funny. When I first spoke to Alex about doing a presentation for Vox, the way he described what he's going to be talking about, he did it so well, and as soon as I came off the phone to try and explain it to somebody else, it just did not do it justice at all. The way he speaks he's extremely eloquent about his ideas of sustainability.
And what the impact his casino is having on his community and stuff as well is phenomenal. He's brilliant.
He also dresses beautifully.
Yes,
he does. He really does dress beautifully, and it's. I think that the 3 best dressed people in the casino industry are. This might be controversial. I'm going to say Herman Paminger of the European Casino Association.
Herman is a snappy dresser, absolutely.
I love his trainers.
I'm going to say Alex Dixon. And I'm going to say Brad Broderick.
Good shout. I think that's a good lineup.
And there's me looking like a bag of spanners, my pants drying on the radiator. Do you know what I mean? But I know good clothing when I see it on somebody else. Unfortunately, we're not all built for buying nice clothes.
You can appreciate it.
Yeah, totally. I can appreciate something that would look terrible on me. Looks good on them. So we're a week out from ICE. I can't believe you've taken the time to talk to us. I mean, that's just, it seems self-sabotaging in a way.
And there you are talking about your pants.
Yeah, totally. You'd be like, Mum, I was on a
got
podcast.
No emails coming in on my other screen right now. There's nothing happening. Zero happening. Our operations team aren't on site already or anything like that.
That's lucky.
Don't worry about it, John. It's okay. All the time in the world.
They made Fintan laugh. Don't encourage him. So I would imagine that a lot of so I mean, businesses obviously plan way ahead for most things, and you must be elbow deep in the plans for Barcelona already. I mean, is that presumably you're all turning up for ICE with answers to the questions that are inevitably going to come? I mean, have you got any answers that you want to share with us? And I don't know, maybe we'll guess the questions.
The Jeopardy style game. I think that yes is the short answer to all the questions you might have. But yes is the short answer to that in terms of we're prepared and we're already very much preparing for 2025. I mean, ironically, no, it's not ironic at all, but interestingly, the fact the show is moving forward a couple of weeks in the date line means this time in a year, we would have already had the first ICE in Barcelona. And we haven't yet done this event. So it means we're delivering 2 shows within a year, which is a sort of a really exciting thing for the team. I think we very much have approached this on the success of the 2025 event is massively important for the industry, but only as important as the success of the 2024 event. So we have to very much focus and have focused on delivering this, making sure that we get the best audience, the best attendees, the best exhibitors, the best experience for everybody for 2024 so that we have something to build on even more so for 2025. We've got strong momentum and we've got some really exciting plans in place, but they're all reliant upon, keeping everything going and building on those for 2025. So we have loads and loads and loads of stuff that we're going to be sharing about 2025 as we get past the 24 event, but it's about not clouding people's minds as they come into this event. At the end of the day, people are there to do business. They're there to drive the industry forward. We're there to help facilitate that and to make sure we're pushing it in the right direction. But if we take our eye off that, then the event in 24 isn't as good as it can be. So we sort of having to split our vision a bit, but really excited about getting some of those questions, to be honest, because there's bound to be some that we that we look at and we go, great, now we can focus on those areas, and there'll be others that we already have got plans for, and there's going to be lots of exciting stuff to come.
I do have one question about 2025, but it's only a little one, and I'm asking for a friend, Sadie. Is the structure and sort of shape of the show as we know it going to remain? Or, for example, is this the last time we're going to see Sadie?
Wow. This is taking a dark turn.
What did Sadie do to upset you, Jon?
No, nothing. I just want to know, is it going to be ICE Vox and all that jazz?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think ICE Vox in its current form is really international, so we're really excited about taking it to Barcelona. And I think also the new location is going to lend itself to potentially new content opportunities for us, new markets and things like that. We're working on sort of like what it's going to look like, how it's going to look like at the show itself. So it will undergo a makeover for sure to fit with all of the other Barcelona plans, but yeah, it'll absolutely be there.
Good to know. It's good to have a bit of security.
Thanks.
I would imagine.
I feel like I have now.
She wasn't worried until right now.
I feel like I've just secured my position.
It's great because your boss is here.
Exactly.
I'm just kidding. But anyway. Fintan, do you have any questions?
Okay, so we've got ICE Vox, so that's kicking off the week. In terms of the rest of the kind of the shape of the rest of the week, then anything else kind of you want to highlight or kind of key things, key moments?
Few bits definitely that I think are worth highlighting, because I think what I found certainly in this role and with this event is there's so much happening. Like there is genuinely so much happening. Our marketing team have been up against the wall trying to promote everything and try not to, constantly be emailing and getting in touch with all of our customers about all these different things. But the reality is there is so much happening for different groups and there's so much going on that we don't want people to miss out. I've never been to an event before where you genuinely come away from it without feeling like you've come up for air. You haven't got any sort of in-between time because there is so much happening. For me, a few new things I'd like to highlight. So we've got a section of the show called Fast Forward, which is an area that we're looking to build on in the future as we move to Barcelona. But it's all about us looking to the future and us really trying to put a lens into the things that we think are going to be really important going forward. It's where we've moved Pitch Ice, which is our kind of startup like launchpad proposition. We've moved Pitch Ice into that space. We're also hosting a load of great events on DEI. We're hosting an event for some of our Spanish partners on that stand. And it's just generally a place where we want people to come to share their ideas about what the future of the industry can be like, where we can have these great networking events and opportunities for people to connect. Because it's really important for us to be always listening to what's happening in the industry, what we're expecting to happen next, and to try and shape our events around that. Because if we don't, then we're just playing catch up with what's happening in the industry. And it's such a fast moving industry that for us to stay on top of it, we have to be, when you're running one event a year, or one ICE a year even, you've got to kind of be listening the whole time to the audience for that. So Fast Forward is really exciting. We have a new growth market zone, which is all focusing around emerging markets and giving them a sort of dedicated home at the show, which we've always had a huge presence from emerging and growth markets at the event. We've had loads and loads of people from every conceivable corner of the gambling world. But we've heard last year from some audience that they wanted to have a home. So specifically around Africa and Latin America, there's a big focus on that. The growth market zone, there's a whole content program around that. There's some great seminars on Brazil. Obviously, lots happening around that. I could list off 100 things, and I genuinely wouldn't cover everything off. Like, I've got a special events list of everything that we're currently making sure that we've got someone from the team at, to make sure that we genuinely gauge, okay, how did that go down? Was that well attended? Was it well received? Were the right people there? What was everyone saying there? Because otherwise these things happen around us at the event, and then we don't know whether they've been successful or not. So that's just two out of loads that I'd want to highlight.
I'd also like to give a shout out to the magnificent John Bamidelli, who is doing the ICE Africa thing. That man is just an absolute legend. I'm very much looking forward to seeing him there. Superstar.
Yeah, he'll be on that growth market zone, and we've got a reception on the Wednesday night from I think 4:30 for that area. There's some great programming happening around Latin America and emerging markets in Vox as well as part of the workshops. We haven't even talked about esports. Like, the esports arena is F1 themed this year, which is really cool. So you can actually go and do a pit stop challenge. So all you got to do is find three friends. So you guys just need to find 2 more friends.
That's it. I'm out. We're out.
You can maybe pair up with another couple of podcast hosts.
I don't even like John.
It would take you a lot longer to change 4 tires on an F1 car on your own. But so loads and loads of great stuff happening, which obviously we could just keep talking about and want to keep talking about. But I would just point people in the direction of the event schedule on the website. The marketing team have done some really cool stuff on the app as well, which is new this year. We've got a new app where you can bookmark everything. You can download it, save it all to your schedules. You can organize all your meetings. There's loads of really, really cool stuff happening at the event. I would just urge people to not wait until Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. to suddenly start planning what they're going to be doing, because they will miss out on so much. Just get as much time in as possible ahead of the event to kind of plan. That would be
check the website, get the app, plan your stuff that you want to see, make the most of your time, and there's something for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. And you guys know, you've been to ICE many times, but it's not, if you walk in, you're not, you walk in unplanned, you're going to find yourself wandering around for the first hour.
Comfortable shoes.
Comfortable shoes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And comfortable.
Definitely comfortable shoes.
Thinking about at least one attendee, it might be a good idea, I don't know if this is something you've considered, but to have some ICE merchandise available. Because Fintan likes people to know where he's been.
You want a T-shirt, Fintan? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I'd love it.
Or a hat.
Make you one.
Or a hat. I'm all about the swag. I'm all about the swag.
He really is. He's only partly joking.
I think, as Andy was saying, you know, and you were talking about Jon earlier about why ICE is really special, because obviously the whole industry is there, but it does such a great job of nurturing different communities all in under this one roof. And, you know, like even in ICE Vox, we've seen a lot of growth in different areas. We launched something around iGaming customer journey, which is, you know, got a really big attendance this year. And also lotteries as well. We've got a lotteries workshop, and that's another community that's really important to ICE. So, yeah, I think it's all about the different kind of communities that come under one roof, really.
That iGaming customer journey, that's in ICE Vox, is it?
It is, yeah.
Nice.
Okay. If I've got a VIP pass, which, Fintan, I have.
I don't.
Can I get into that, or is that a separate thing?
It is actually a separate thing. So basically what we did with the workshops a couple of years ago is we kind of made them a bit more user-friendly. So we kind of condensed them into either a morning or an afternoon, made them a bit more compact. And they're kind of like tactical learning experiences. And we also... because of that, we cap the room to a certain number of people to make sure that it's like the ultimate education piece and that kind of thing. So that's a slightly different event.
That I can't get into. Fuck it.
That's the short answer.
Anyone but Jon. All right,
I'll
it's
just
fair
scribble
enough.
out-
It's understandable.
Yeah, you don't want disruptive people in there with their special comfortable show pants. Although I have bought some new trousers, especially for ICE, and I'm quite excited about wearing them.
Are they branded?
Are they purple?
Sadly they're not purple. I was pretty tempted by the purple ones. But no, but you see, when you've got shoes like mine, you don't need purple trousers.
There you go.
I'll be wearing my red shoes. But honestly, they are seriously nice trousers. So anybody listening, if you see me at ICE, come up, stroke my trousers. But just be careful where
Please
you stroke
don't.
them. It's very nice material, but just be careful where you stroke.
Please abide by our code of conduct also.
Yeah, totally.
Hope the Guardian aren't listening to this.
Oh, you know they're not.
Sorry.
They're too good for us. Anyway, Sadie, well, actually we have had, what's his name on, haven't we? Sadie and Andy, thank you very, very much for joining us. And best of luck for the last ICE in London. You know, it's exciting.
Thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you there.
We'll see you
Thanks,
there.
guys. We'll see you there. Thanks for having us on.
We're joined by, I'm going to have to say, this week's first guest. This is the first of our ICE Week episodes, I think. Is it? No, it's not. This is the week before ICE. Oh, I know I'd get it wrong. This is what happens when Fintan's not here. This is our second episode this week, I should say. And we're joined by a very, very special guest, and I'm very, very excited to introduce him. I'm a big fan of his work. I know Fintan is as well. A long-time reporter covering the Las Vegas beat. From what I know, I remember his work. I started reading him in the Las Vegas Review-Journal, and now he's moved to the Nevada Independent, which is doing some really terrific reporting. Howard Stutz, welcome to the Gambling Files podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I appreciate you following my career and what we do.
You might not appreciate it when we're finished. There's a lot of directions this could go in, and down is definitely one of them. So, Howard, a bit of background on you. What's your sort of reporting background? What's your path to Vegas and to where you are today?
Well, I actually moved to Las Vegas in 1982 as to be a sports writer for the Las Vegas Sun. I went to college at San Diego State. I'm from California originally. I grew up in Southern California. My family was all there, and got a job at the Las Vegas Sun to cover sports, and it just evolved. I covered UNLV football the last years they were actually any decent until this past season when they went to a bowl game finally again. But I covered sports and then moved over to news side eventually finding my way into covering gaming at the Sun back in the late 1980s before moving to the RJ. And we used to joke at there was a gentleman by the name of Daniel Hennigan who covered gaming for the Atlantic City Press back in the early 80s. At the same time I was covering, should I say late 80s, early 90s, when I'm dating myself now, late 80s, early 90s, when I was covering for the Review Journal. At the time, the only place in the U.S., only places in the U.S. where there was legal gambling was Nevada, obviously Las Vegas, and Atlantic City. So we used to joke we were the only two gaming reporters in the entire country in the U.S. at that time, because it was just, that was us covering this. And I got to follow early on a lot of the early expansion beyond Atlantic City. The very first state, most people think of as Mississippi was the very first state. It actually was Deadwood, South Dakota, because they started small stakes casino, little, tiny 15, slot machines, small stakes table games in Deadwood, South Dakota, which is an old West city. If you're familiar with U.S. history, and it's right near the Mount Rushmore monument in South Dakota.
Okay.
And it was a way to get, to build revenues. They were the first state to actually think, okay, tax gaming, and we can help, expand our tourism base here in South Dakota. Then gaming just blew up after that. It just expanded all over the country. Iowa, Mississippi, a lot of river boats, tribal casinos. So I kind of followed that off and on throughout the years because I switched professions for a while and was in corporate communications and public relations. But then in 2004, I went back to the Las Vegas Review Journal to cover gaming. And at that time, that was about the time when you saw a lot more tribal casinos were growing. There's still a lot of expansion. I also got to cover in 2005 probably the worst disaster that ever hit the gaming industry in the U.S., and that was Hurricane Katrina in southern Mississippi. And it wiped out the casino market there. And at the time, Mississippi was starting to challenge New Jersey as the number 2 state in terms of gaming revenue in the U.S. So it set back their industry, several years and several decades, maybe in a decade or so. But it was fascinating to go down there and cover that. And just following the expansion, it was a lot to keep up with because there was so much happening. And at the same time, Macau started moving. Yeah. So I got to go to Macau. The Review Journal sent me there in 2007. I haven't been back since, but it was the early stages.
It's changed quite a lot.
Oh, yes. I do know that. It's changed even more since, after with COVID and everything. It's finally starting to come back. So, I've started to follow it more. I followed really more so was following the U.S. expansion. But now with the Nevada Independent, I really focus on Nevada and what's going on here. But my beat has changed tremendously. The Nevada Independent, if you allow me to explain, is it's a nonprofit news organization started by a gentleman by the name of John Ralston, who's very well known not only in Nevada but across the U.S. as one of the top political reporters in the country, and started this business model. It's very similar to. We're seeing a lot more of them now, but at the time when we started the Independent 7 years ago. It was, we're one of a few nonprofit organizations. We subsist on donations. We're a nonprofit, so it's a 501. It's a tax write-off for people who donate, and we've grown. We've grown our presence. It was really started out as a political publication, but about a year before COVID, about 2019, I started writing, freelancing for the Independent on gaming coverage because it was an area that the Independent, frankly, we really needed to get involved with. It's the biggest industry in the state, so that's why we started covering it a lot more. And I started as a freelancer, but then evolved into a full-time position, and I'll be marking my 3rd year. And that position has changed, obviously, because I cover tourism, and I'm covering the potential move of the Oakland A's to Las Vegas. I'm starting to cover a lot more sports business because right now, as we sit here, we are 11, 12 days out from the Super Bowl coming to Las Vegas. Now, go back to 1982 when I moved here. The biggest sports venue we had in Las Vegas was the Las Vegas Convention Center, a 6,000 seat rotunda. If you've seen history photos of Las Vegas, it looks like a giant flying saucer. It was this big silver dome thing, and that's where the UNLV basketball played. And that was the biggest sports venue, 6,000 seats. On Super Bowl Sunday, on February 11th, they'll be playing the 65,000 seat Allegiant Stadium, which has just changed the Vegas market entirely. So Las Vegas has changed tremendously. I mean, it's a fascinating story as we've grown as a city and as a town. We now we'll have two professional sports teams: the Las Vegas Raiders and the Vegas Golden Knights in the National Hockey League. We may have the Oakland A's soon enough for Major League Baseball. We're probably going to get an NBA team, and we're still seeing casinos expand too. And and Vegas continues to thrive, even as sports betting has grown legally across the U.S. in the last almost 6 years now. So there's a lot of change in the U.S. and gambling and the way gaming is viewed in the U.S. And Vegas is, everybody always had oh God, they're going to put a casino in New Jersey. Atlantic City is going to legalize casinos. That's going to be the death of Vegas. It wasn't. Even California tribal casinos, which actually produce more in gaming revenue than the whole state of Nevada does. Mm-hmm. It hasn't hurt Vegas at all. It has only enhanced Vegas. So that's something I've watched and seen, and as it has evolved over the last 40 plus years I've been here.
Yeah, so I used to edit a trade publication for the gambling industry for 17 years, I think, until December before last. And so a lot of the changes you're talking about. So I remember I don't know whether you'd know her, there's a writer named Sharon Harris, used to write for me, and she covered Katrina, and she visited the area, and that was really extraordinary, because in other parts of the world, like Europe, it's such a foreign concept, that kind of destruction. It simply doesn't happen on this continent, nor on either of the continents either side of us. So it was amazing to watch that. But there's also, I mean, I hope this doesn't sound like I'm interviewing a centenarian and saying you must have seen so much change in your life. But it's also, the 2008 financial crash. The sort of socioeconomic changes that have happened in the period that we're talking about. The rise of Macau has been absolutely insane. And I've been to Macau, a lot of times. I've probably been to Vegas about 25 times. I've certainly been to Macau 16, 17 times. And it's a funny thing. Gambling is broadly acceptable now. I think it's fair to say that, but it's still considered a really bad thing.
That's an interesting point. Yeah, in some ways, yeah. This week, with the Super Bowl coming here, it's fascinating. The NFL sports betting. The NFL and all the professional sports leagues fought New Jersey for 5, 6, 7 years, however long it took, before the U.S. Supreme Court. Once the U.S. Supreme Court accepted the case to hear the case that New Jersey trying to legalize sports betting in its casinos, everybody knew, well, they didn't take it just to say the lower court did the right thing. They took it because they were gonna make their own decision, and they did, and it opened the market, the floodgates for sports betting. Sports betting is legal in 38, 39 states right now. What was fascinating though was the professional sports leagues fought this tooth and nail in the courts, There was a time when the NFL wouldn't allow Las Vegas to advertise Las Vegas on during the Super Bowl telecast when the game was in Phoenix a few years ago, and they didn't want anything to do with it. The Las Vegas Convention Authority, Visitor Authority, the Tourism Bureau rented a bus in Phoenix and shrink wrapped it with all these messages about Las Vegas and drove it all around the city for a week. That's how they got the message out. Fast forward, the minute the Supreme Court ruled, all these pro leagues said, "Oh, wait a minute, we can make money off of sports betting, with partnerships and marketing deals. Okay, we're in." And that's what's happened here. I mean, if you watch the telecast, you'll see ads for sports betting companies, DraftKings, FanDuel, Caesars, MGM, BetMGM. But what's fascinating also is, to your point, the NFL put out a statement that the teams playing in the Super Bowl, Kansas City Chiefs, the San Francisco 49ers, the players cannot go into a casino during their time while they're in Las Vegas for the game. Well, they're going to be staying out at Lake Las Vegas in these two non-gaming hotel resorts out in Lake Las Vegas at the far east end of the valley, and they'll bus them in. Players that are in town, because you're going to get a lot of NFL players here, can go into the casino. They can play like blackjack or 21, or roulette or craps or blackjack, but they can't set foot in a sports book during the week of the Super Bowl. So it's kind of fascinating how the NFL has evolved, but then again, it's like trying to push back, and that's been the big conundrum for the sports industry in dealing with legalized casinos and sports betting.
It's really interesting though that two things spring to mind. We had a chap, a lovely man, on the podcast it was our last episode before Christmas. He was a former professional footballer. Obviously, I mean actual football. And he had a respectable career in the lower leagues in England. And I do mean a really respectable career. But he was a gambling addict, and, things unraveled. And he's put together this organization which reaches out to like lower league clubs, to amateur clubs, to football clubs for juniors, because he recognizes how inherent gambling is in the game, not just in people able to bet on it, but in players. They have free time, they've got a deck of cards on the bus, the whole culture. And so he's about educating people about that, and not in a gambling's evil way. In a, look, this is what happened to me. This is how it happened. Don't do that, kind of thing. And it was fascinating talking to him, because I didn't realize until I talked to him what a massive gap in education there is right there. And what we've seen in the US certainly in the last 12 months, player suspensions, lots and lots of player suspensions, when in fact, what that was highlighting has now been addressed, which is player education is the problem. If you've got a sports book in the fucking stadium, and you're saying to that, or you've got like a localized, like a geo-fenced facility in the stadium, and you're then saying to that player, everybody else in the stadium can use it, but you can't. Or even better, if you're not saying that to them and you're assuming they're just going to know, do you know what I mean? It's bonkers. And is it Ohio State where there's been the big scandal, or is it Idaho?
Well, say again, Idaho. What about Idaho?
There's one of the universities, one of the college teams has had a big scandal, and that's been rumbling on.
Oh yeah, no, it was Iowa State. They had a big scandal. The players were betting. One of the aspects, there's a lot to unpack here. The leagues and the sports books realize this. They are addressing responsible gaming. I mean, most of the casinos, the casino industry, they have been addressing this. There's more education for customers, what to spot. You spot a player, how to approach that player if they've got, they obviously have a problem. And same with players, to understand customers understand, when to say no and when to stop, and it's just very similar to any type of addiction, I guess, in some ways, the way they're looking at and treating it, because the brain works in certain ways. There are very few, Nevada. You have to, and this is a misnomer that we've been trying to, I've had to point out to people. Allegiant Stadium does not have a sports book in it. The stadium where the Las Vegas Raiders plays. Nevada has a rule that to have a physical sports book, you have to be within a casino that has to have 200 rooms, at least 200 hotel rooms, be within a resort. That's the only way you can have a physical sports book. Now, we are seeing this in other markets where Arizona, for example, BetMGM had a sports book. I use that in quotes, outside of State Farm Stadium where the Super Bowl was played last year. It wasn't really a sports book. They had a sports book like facility with a couple of betting windows, but it was more of a bar and tavern, a sport, to go eat before the game, or if you're not going to the game, to be there and watch the game. Those are what they really are. They have kiosks you can place wagers on kiosks, but for the most part, people bet on their phones. I mean, that's where mobile sports betting is what's really the growth. I mean, the state of Arizona, they have very few sports books. It's all mobile sports betting. Nevada is a big, to operate a mobile sports betting business in Nevada, you have to be attached to a casino. That is why DraftKings, FanDuel, the two largest sports betting operators in the U.S., are not operating in Nevada because they don't own a casino. They haven't done any casino deals, so they don't have a presence here. ESPN.
Hang on, Howard. Hang on. Obviously that's why FanDuel and DraftKings aren't there. But isn't there room? Unless I'm totally misunderstanding things. So, one of the most genius things I think that has happened in Vegas, business-wise, in recent years, is Circa licensing their sportsbook model. I think that's really, really clever because they've got this sportsbook, and they're saying to other businesses, "You can have a slice of this pie."
Yeah,
and I think that's glorious, and I think it's so clever. Isn't there the potential for like a licensing deal in a sportsbook in Las Vegas where they've got their name on it or something? I don't know.
There is some room. There could be. No, they could be. Circa does have licensing agreements. They actually have a physical sportsbook in northern Nevada, the community Sparks, which is south. Which is south of Reno, right near Reno. They have a licensed sportsbook up there that they operate, but it's a way for them to sign up customers in northern Nevada. They have other deals down here in southern Nevada with very small casinos, but they're basically just depositories where people can load up their account or open their account somehow by physically being in the casino. They've gone into other states. Circa has gone into. They have a physical sports book in Illinois, at a casino north of Chicago. They're in Colorado, and they don't have a physical sports book. They just have a big sign that says "Sign up," and you can sign up mobilely. You can register and sign up mobilely. Nevada is very different. Nevada does not have mobile registration. You have to come in physically, go into a sports book to sign up for a mobile account.
Yeah. Okay.
But in that sense, what I've argued is that you look at the gaming numbers for Nevada monthly when they come out, mobile sports betting is anywhere from 65 to 75% of all the wagers. The sports book is 35 to 40, whatever. Don't make me do math here. The 35% of the wagers. So yeah, it's the model. People just use to betting on your phone. That's what they do now.
Interesting. You mentioned about Circa being in Sparks.
Right.
So Sparks, to any listeners not in the know, Sparks follows great American tradition of naming places after bands. So Sparks is named after Sparks. There's also Kansas, which is named after the band Kansas, and Chicago, which is named after the band Chicago. True story.
Very interesting. Yeah, no, Sparks is there's a new casino there called Legends Bay, and that's where Circa went in, and it was for Circa, for Derek Stevens, who's the CEO of Circa Sports and three properties in Vegas. It was a way for him to draw the Northern Nevada market. Sparks Reno draws a lot of business from the San Francisco Bay Area, so for him that's a way to draw some business, to help build up his player roles.
It gets that Circa name out there. I mean, if you remember, when Circa opened, it was still in the thick of COVID and all of that, and like the entire industry just looked at it and just people had tears in their eyes, kind of thing, just like, oh my God, some good news.
Yeah,
and
it was,
and it's so beautiful. I mean, it's gorgeous. I know, obviously they've had a few issues here and there, but it's a spectacular project.
It's what was too bad was I lost one of my good storylines because Derek Stevens, CEO, is from Detroit, and he went to the game in San Francisco. The Lions were up by 17 points at halftime and lost to the 49ers. That was going to be my big end. What was he going to do in Vegas with the Super Bowl here and possibly the Detroit Lions playing here and with Circa? But it didn't happen. So, oh well. Maybe sometime down the road.
I wonder if there's a casino owner version of recusing oneself. But it's interestingly, I don't know whether this is interesting, but when my first ever visit to the US, I was working on a movie magazine, and the first place I went to was Detroit. I mean, this was like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
No. 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was pretty rough around the edges, to put it politely. I gather it's had a renaissance since then, but the only way is up from there.
Well, you bring it up. A renaissance they have because of they're using sports and entertainment. They built both. They redid. They put a football stadium downtown for the Lions. They redid the Tigers Stadium, and they're right next to each other. And what's across the streets from all the MGM Grand Detroit, Greektown casinos right near there, and what's the other one? I know there's one other casino in Detroit, but they're all in that area. So yeah, it's it's similar to here where you've got Allegiant Stadium, just across the freeways, walking distance from the Strip, and that's what people do is walk over from the MGM properties across a bridge and into the stadium. And it's gonna be that way for the Super Bowl, and then we'll see about the A's Stadium. It's supposed to be that will be right on the Strip
I can't wait to see what that does to the traffic.
Oh well, that's a big issue. The traffic. This Formula, we had Formula One here, and that was a nightmare with closing off traffic. Yeah. And they got to do it. They're going to have to figure out a way to do it better this year when they've got a 9-year contract with the race. F1's not going anywhere. They spent $500 million on their plaza, the pit garage and everything, the paddock area that they have, and the start finish line, that whole building complex. They're going to start using that year round. So they're not going anywhere. They just got to figure out how to make it better this time. So we'll see what happens.
Well, you know what? The first hurdle they had to overcome was to make sure the race wasn't shit. And I'm not a fan, but from everything I read, the race was very warmly received globally. Very warmly received.
Yeah, we had one of our other writers covered it. Went to there. I decided to go out into the locals casinos here in Las Vegas, and see if people were watching the race. And I went to the Palms, which is just off the Strip. You could it's on Flamingo Road if you're familiar with Las Vegas, and you could hear the cars because that's where they were coming down. Coming down
the cars
Strip
from space.
Yeah, and I walked into the sports book when it came on. There was a couple guys were watching, had a lot of money on the New Mexico Fresno State football game. That's what they were all watching, and because there were a few football games on. Finally, the race comes on. All of a sudden, this guy comes running in and grabs a seat in the sports book, and he's got a red Ferrari tracksuit, jacket, and I went up and talked to him. He was Italian. He was a waiter at an Italian restaurant in Vegas, and from Italy, and was of course rooting for the Ferrari team, and then watched both cars crash on the opening turn. But I stayed there for about an hour and talked to some people. So there was a handful of people watching the race. But I went out to the Red Rock Resort, which is on the far west end of town out in Summerlin. It's where the true neighborhood casino is, all Las Vegas. And at 11 o'clock at night, they were halfway through the race. The sportsbook was packed with about 200, 300 people just watching the race. They weren't taking, the sportsbook was closed. They had done taking bets for the day, but people were watching it. And just out of curiosity, just to see what it was all about. You know, they'd been living this, I want to say this nightmare kind of for about, much of a year with the race and all the traffic issues, but people were watching it. So that was fascinating to see that.
I've seen people suggest that, the numbers would be up on the race because it's the first year and people are curious. Actually, my take on that is there's a good chance the numbers will be better next year. Yeah. Because the fans will have seen it and seen that it works and that it's an exciting race. And that's, very different.
One of the things they're going to have to do is for the Las Vegas people, they have to lower the ticket prices. I mean, it was built for the high end market. And we did have a lot of foreign visitation that came in for the race because, it's F1 is not that well known in the U.S., even though it's gotten well known because of that TV series Drive to Survive, and ESPN shows the races on their network. But it'll be interesting to see how the attendance is next year, and if they can do something that it's a lower price ticket and track the locals. But we'll see with that. Right now, the Super Bowl. Right now, we're talking about the Super Bowl, and it's like 4 and 5 figure tickets to go to the game. So
I was reading that the resale market's gone pretty crazy there. But this all ties into one thing that I've been thinking about quite a bit, and I'm writing an article about because I interviewed recently Virginia Valentine, and the interview was basically about the evolution of Las Vegas. Now, bear in mind, like when I started going there, Tito had just kind of hit floor wide. And people were still pissing and moaning about not using coins. And, God, what year would have been about 2000. Say Katrina was 2005.
Early 2000s is when Tito finally took off. It was about early 2000s.
I'm trying to think. It might have been 2004 I first went there. Might have been 2003.
It didn't matter. People were still bitching about Tito back in 2000.
I'm pretty sure you can still find taxi drivers now that are bitching about it. And that was still sort of the time when you were looking at 60 or 70% of revenue coming from slot stroke gaming. And my God, how that's changed. I mean, so Vegas has now become a destination to go and do stuff. I mean, we're talking like not one A-list music personality on the Strip. I mean, there's shitloads of them. I mean, you got fucking Adele. She's English. She's the creme de la creme. But in all seriousness, you've got superb music acts, different. You've got the Sphere, you've got the Allegiant, you've got different sized venues for different levels of band, if you like, and you've still got residencies in all of the casinos have still got superb concert venues, etc. You've got the sports aspect. You've got Formula One. You've got the Super Bowl. You've got NBA probably coming. You've got baseball probably coming. You have a very successful hockey team. You've got the most successful women's basketball team, I think.
Correct. Two-time WNBA champions.
I mean, that's amazing. That's fabulous. And then football. There's really not much missing. Because you've also got world-class restaurants and the most hotel rooms in the known universe.
It's Vegas has it started changing a lot in the last couple decades ago, because you saw that, like you said, it was the shows, the hotel rooms, the restaurants. Vegas, where others, if you look at like tribal casino markets or different markets around the country, 65-75% of their revenue is coming from the casino floor. Vegas as a whole, it changed over 65% of the revenues drawn out of the casino scene, gaming, the resort scene in Las Vegas are not from the casino. It's from everything else that you just mentioned: the shows, hotel rooms, the restaurants. COVID happened, and there was a focus a little bit back on casinos because it took a long time for the non-gaming stuff to get going again. But that's what Vegas is really. Vegas was the only place for sports betting. The revenues from sports betting now in Vegas, in Nevada, are behind like 3 or 4 other states now, because of the population. The New York. If you live in New York, you don't have to drive across the bridge to go to Atlantic City anymore, or go New Jersey. You can bet in New York on sports. And there's some casinos in New York. New York City is going to add a couple of 2 or 3 big casinos here in the next couple of years. Vegas continues to reinvent himself, and that's it's one way to look at it. You didn't mention the one sport where I'm very surprised. The hope is that we're going to get a Major League Soccer franchise here at some point, MLS. There's one group that's been trying, and when you have, the Allegiant Stadium is packed when you have I think that we've had the Mexican leagues. Mexican leagues have played games here, and I don't know what the terms are.
When you throw in,
yeah,
not just the visitors. You've got hundreds of thousands of Japanese visitors, and they love football. You've got stacks and stacks of Chinese visitors, and they love football. And English, I think we're probably still second or third on your visitors list, and it's been well documented. We like football, but it's actually that locals market that's going to be the decider on that. And you've got so many people of Latin American descent, and they're as nutty about football as the Europeans are. So I'd love to see football in Vegas, because you can certainly support it. And also, it has a longer season than any of your other sports. Because you see all these movies about people taking a real battering in their sports, like your Any Given Sundays and all that kind of thing. It doesn't tell you that the fucking football season's only 3 months long. I might be exaggerating slightly.
No, well, you brought up also the NBA, because that's the National Basketball Association. They're already here. They have the in-season tournament here. They have the summer league here. There's another arena being built south of town by a group called Oakview out of Los Angeles. The developer, Tim Lewicki is his name. He built arenas, and he's built arenas all over the U.S. Most recently, the arena up in Seattle, where the hockey team, the Seattle Kraken, play. They're building a 20,000 seat arena as part of this resort complex, hotel, casino, convention space, and it's pretty clear that's probably where the NBA will go. The NBA wants to put an expansion team in Las Vegas. They want to put a team up in Seattle, and so it's just a matter of time before we see the NBA in Las Vegas. We may actually see the NBA play in Las Vegas before Major League Baseball actually arrives, because if the timeline right now for the baseball stadium is 2028 for the Major League team, for the A's, to local athletics, to relocate to Las Vegas, and we may have an NBA team already here before that.
You could probably grow a stadium before that. The thing is, right? Yeah, you see those $1 billion revenue months, and all of those $1 billion revenue months in a row, right?
Yeah, the state is up, and that's the state of Nevada, though. The bulk of it is from the Strip in Clark County, which is the local the jurisdiction where the Strip is located. So,
thing is, though,
$1 billion months from Clark County.
Figures can be fudged, or rather, figures can mask an issue pretty easily. I think we've seen it. I can't remember the chap's name. We've had him on the podcast as well. There's a guy covers Atlantic City for Play USA, or is somebody?
Oh, Dan, or I think Dan. Yeah, I think it's Dan. Somebody. Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about.
But he came on and he was talking about how, they're just talking about the overall revenue figures. They're not breaking down those figures. Actually, the betting handle is way, way down.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of, I think with Vegas, right? And definitely correct me if I'm wrong here. But what we've seen, I think every strip operator has now resumed charging for parking.
Yeah, right? Pretty much. Almost everyone. Yeah, there's...
Mm-hmm. And that's not a huge amount of money, but it's all in the pot. And resort fees, MGM's just put them up again. And resort fees are not an inconsequential figure at all. When I was there, I didn't go over for G2E last time, but I was over there a year before. And I was with the publisher of the magazine that I was on, and we had a bog standard breakfast. I mean, seriously, steak and eggs. The steak was not an expensive cut of steak. And I had like my usual 6 poached eggs, and a side of ham or something, I don't know. And a glass of water, and he had steak and eggs with no extras and a cup of coffee. And that came to like $110. That's like in pounds. That's like 80 odd pounds for a simple breakfast. And we were sitting at a counter somewhere. It's not like we had fancy fucking table service. It's not like we had serviettes. And I was honestly, I was absolutely stunned because, yeah, things have gone up, but. And then, of course, you've got the wonderful American tradition of, stick 20% on that, you fucking tight ass. 20% on that, you're looking at, that's $150 or £120 for fucking breakfast. Not a fancy breakfast, a really simple breakfast in a non-fancy resort. And I was absolutely stunned. The cost of everything has gone absolutely mental. And I keep thinking, this will be the month. This will be the month. Everybody's like, no, lads, that's a bit expensive. I'm gonna go to Reno. I'm gonna go anywhere else. I'm gonna go to Pachanga. But no, this is what I don't get. When are we going to reach breaking point? I mean, after the Super Bowl, okay, you've got another Formula One race end of this year. But after the Super Bowl, that's the next massive sporting event, I suppose.
Well, there'll be concerts.
Can this be maintained?
There'll be other events. No, there'll be other events. There'll be concerts into Allegiant. But yeah, can it be maintained? I've been waiting for that too. Listen, I've been here when you talk about the steak and eggs. It was called downtown Vegas, the Benny Binion's Natural, the old Binions. So $2 you got bacon, eggs and bacon or ham or sausage and hash browns and toast or whatever. And it was for $2. I mean, there was always the 99-cent steak dinner, or the buffets have gone away. Buffets were the big thing. They were money losers for the casinos. I mean, you put all this food out, and different property owners would say they lose $30,000, $40,000, whatever it is a month on the buffet. The casino operators used COVID to kill the buffets off. If you notice, now there is no the buffets have gone away, and they're now called food halls, or not food courts. They're more so food halls, but they're little outlets from different restaurants that you go to and order. So it's not really a buffet.
But it's lots of little franchises, and it's safe revenue because it's rent revenue, isn't it?
Right. It says rent revenue. So yeah, there's been a lot of change in that direction. You come to Vegas, you expect now I think people come here if they're paying so much for a room, or there's some kind of a big concert they're coming. They know they're going to have to pay, whatever it is for dining out. But you're right. At some point, are we going to see this break? Is the bubble going to burst here? We don't, and I don't have a crystal ball. I mean, right now, I don't see a new resort opening for another few years. The Fontainebleau just opened. It's got its problems. We're going to subtract huh? What'd you say?
Nacho Gate.
Yeah, Nacho Gate. What a joke. But it's got its problems, and now you're going to subtract another resort from the scene. The Tropicana is going to close on April 2nd now, and eventually to be torn down by the end of the year for this baseball stadium. It's going to take another 3 years to build. But there's nothing else on the horizon. I mean, there's talk about the land across from Wynn. There's all these other potential sites, but nothing. And so I think that's what we're just going to have to wait and see what's next. They're just going to let this play out and this play out. But like you said, to your point, the Super Bowl is done after next weekend, but there's going to be other events. The Allegiant they'll have some more concerts there. The Rolling Stones are playing Allegiant Stadium in May, so there's a big, and I'm actually going to that show because I think it's the only chance I'll have to see the Rolling Stones by now, or maybe the last time. But there's other events. They'll bring the soccer tournaments, soccer team games back, from the European or Mexican Soccer League games. They'll do things. Things will happen, and then we'll roll into football season. In March is March Madness, the college basketball tournament, NCAA college basketball tournament. We had actually the West Regional Final was in Las Vegas last year at the Allegiant at T-Mobile Arena, where the Vegas Golden Knights, the NHL team, plays. Mm-hmm. That's always a big event anyway for Vegas, is March Madness, the first weekend, especially with all the first 4 days, and all the sports books are packed. 2028, Allegiant Stadium is going to host the Final Four, and there's still and the head of the NC2, the head of the Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority said the one event that we don't have, and he wants to get, is the College Football National Championship game. So that's another event that we may get here. So
is that the Rose Bowl?
The one it wasn't at the Rose Bowl this year. It was at Houston, and it was the one Michigan beat Washington.
But it's the game that's colloquially referred to as the Rose Bowl. Is that right?
The Rose Bowl is part of that. Is
that just the venue?
That's a venue. The venue's in Pasadena, California. The Rose Bowl. That's a stadium, a venue down in Pasadena. I think we will see. They use Allegiant Stadium for all these events. They're going to do the same with T-Mobile Arena for concerts. Now you have the Sphere. U2's residency's running out here soon. We just don't know what will come there next. So yeah, there's always something happening in a way to bring in visitors, even in the slow summer months. So that's really what we were looking at it, and we'll see what the A's Stadium, if this actually comes to fruition. There's a lot they've gotten. They got approved for about $380 million public money, but they can't touch it until everything, all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, all the different contracts or agreements are reached. The A's have to come up with about $1.1 billion of their own financing for the stadium. We don't know where that's coming from. So yeah, there's a lot to happen here with this. But Major League Baseball coming to Vegas, I just don't. Major League Baseball is a tough sell still right now. In a lot of cities. So we'll see if this works or not. But who knows? Something's always changing here. That's what makes it fun to cover this town.
yeah. No question there. It's okay, darling. Sorry about my daughter's tablet just went mad. It's okay. My sons have left the room, and luckily they left Alvin and the Chipmunks playing in the background. So if you're getting any background noise, that's what it is.
No worries.
So pre-COVID, one of the major things that all of the all of the big resorts had was a nightclub with a named DJ. And I mean, these things were massive revenue generators, and it was another destination thing. You know, a weekend of clubbing, you can go and dance all night. And God, I remember, it's a bizarre memory. I remember I was eating a pizza in SLS, and I was with the legendary marketing director, and I said, "Why the fuck have you put the pizza place out the back here?" And he's like, "Look around you." I'm like, "Yeah, what at?" He said, "Well, that's the exit for the nightclub." So I got to walk past the pizza place when they come out. I'm like, "That is genius. This is why you're here, and I'm not." But did the nightclubs come back? Have they made any kind of a comeback?
They have. Hakkasan at MGM, some of the bigger ones have made a comeback. What we saw was even before COVID, was the Fertittas that own Red Rock Resorts. They bought the Palms Casino and spent a ton of money building a nightclub in there, and it bombed because they had terrible. They had these huge contracts with these DJs, and now I'm showing my age. I'm not a nightclub person, and I never understood the DJs. I said that, there's the DJ called Marshmello, and the guy, I said, explain to me how he gets, $250,000 a night for putting a bucket on his head and spinning records. I don't understand that, but they have been a draw, and I'll give them that. The Super Bowl is going to have its first DJ, the first official DJ for the Super Bowl in Vegas. I saw that. Tiesto is going to do like pregame stuff and at halftime, and so that's going to be. Yeah, so we'll have a DJ there. That's one of the things about, that, you look at in the NFL stadiums now, it's the newer ones in Vegas, down and behind the end zone have like club levels. So Win Club is like $10,000. It's bottle service, $10,000 a table to sit down in the end zone, right in behind the end zone, and watch the game. And it's become, that's that. We've seen this in other stadiums now are doing it. So yeah, the nightclubs are still here. I think the companies the properties that have them are now trying to figure out how to get them to work again, or what works and what doesn't, who's popular. So it's a challenge. I mean, because but it is a market, a younger market than me. So that's, I stay away from that.
Same. But I'm old and my body is broken. So what is the future for Vegas? I mean, is it just more of the same? I guess it is, isn't it?
A little bit, but I think you'll see how things change. I mean, that's the one thing. Vegas has a way of changing itself. They'll, let's see if they can get the Fontainebleau working. That's the one thing, see if they get that working. Will the A's Stadium get built to replace the Tropicana? Are there any other new venues that we're going to see, any new resorts pop up here? Don't know yet. That's to be determined. Will Formula One, the big events, we're still going to get the big events. Will Formula One be able to, will they repair all the whatever the little hiccups they had? I mean, it made money, it brought money into the city, but will it repair the hiccups in the next couple of races? Will the Super Bowl be successful this year? It seems like it will be, and then what it means is, will Vegas then be on the rotation every 5 years? We'll get the Super Bowl. So I think we've got some growing pains. So we're trying to figure out the airport. It's got is getting very crowded. We're trying to figure out how to get people here. I think that's if you ever, I don't know if you've ever driven in from Southern California on Interstate 15. That is a challenge. It needs to be widened. There's talk about this bullet train. I've been here over 40 years. They've been talking about the bullet train for 40 years coming here. So I don't know if that'll happen. I mean, so there's going to be, there's still always going to be growing pains with Vegas on how to get people here. But for the most part, listen, there's casinos all over the U.S. and in tribals and tribes and different states. But Vegas is always, the Vegas companies always initially use those new markets as a way to advertise to get people to Vegas. I always remember Harrah's putting a couple of riverboats outside of Chicago, these small little cities in Chicago, and but they had big signs for all their casinos in Las Vegas and Reno, and said, okay, now that you've seen this place, come to Vegas. That's what they use it for. And I think the companies still do that. People want to come here. They want to see it, and as long as they keep it fresh and going, great. We'll see where it goes.
And unlike big other chunks of America, the weather's pretty good all year round in Vegas.
It's hot. We get hot. I mean, we do have our heat. It's been, it gets 40 degrees here in January, and people freak out because think we're going to freeze to death. But no, I mean,
I thought you meant 40 real degrees. Sorry, you mean Fahrenheit.
Whatever. I'm talking in Fahrenheit. No, it's hot here, and that's why there's a roof on Allegiant Stadium. That's why there'll probably be a roof on the baseball stadium. If we get a soccer stadium, we get a football stadium for MLS, they'll probably have a retractable roof on it in some way. So yeah, they have to. We adjust to the climate, but it's there's a lot of room for this place to continue to grow. And there's an allure about it. The history with the mafia and the mobsters running. There's the mob museum. I mean, there's still a lot of history here, and that's what draws people here to see Vegas. So.
One of the things that keeps people there is, of course, no income tax.
Yeah, that's true. I've been living here 40 years, so nice to have.
Every January when I go to do my tax return, I think, why didn't I move to Vegas? Man. Howard, thank you so much for joining me. I'm sorry Fintan wasn't here.
I'm sorry you couldn't make it. I'm happy I've enjoyed the conversation. Happy to do this again whenever you guys want. Works out.
Well, I'd like to get Fintan here, but I like to take the piss out of Fintan quite a bit because he was he built, or was part of a team that built an affiliate company, gambling affiliate, and he was the chairman of it, and they sold the business to the gambling.com group. And so I like to mock Fintan a great deal. And so he's now been named the chairman of this podcast. And so it's just a shame you didn't get to meet the chairman. You just had to speak to a lowly peer.
Well, you have to have me back on at some point.
That would be fantastic. Seriously, thank you so much today. I am genuinely a big fan. I actually met you once at G2E about 14, 15 years ago. And I'm like, this is really
you
sad.
got a good memory.
Well, I went up to you and I said, are you Howard Stutz? And you were like, yeah. I went, I'm a really big fan. And you just went back to what you were doing.
I was a little, I was like, that's really? Well, I am.
You're like, fuck, these English people drink early.
Nah. It's a fun beat to cover. G2E's an interesting event. I'd love to get to ICE one year. That was the one thing I've never been, and that was the big, I was hoping to do that, and someday we'll see. But like I said, my focus is Vegas now. But really,
you say this to people, right? You say to people, like, because I get people asking me a lot at various events, especially if the company's a sort of a new entrant into the space. Which event should we go to? And I always say there's only one that you can't miss. There's 2 or 3 others that are really good. There's one that you can't miss, and that's ICE.
Yeah.
Because ICE is the only one that people from every continent go to. And I always remember there's a guy, this guy worked at a little sort of, I don't know how you describe them. I want to say software engineering company, but they're not really. Based in a little place in Pennsylvania, just outside Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. And I bumped into him at ICE, and I'm like, fuck, what are you doing here? He's like, well, he said, I came here to see all the tribal casinos. He said, because I go to what was then called Niagara. Mm-hmm. So I go to Niagara, I can't get any time with them because they're absolutely rushed off their feet, but they're all here. So I go to ICE to see the tribes. And I'm like, that's genius.
Yeah,
But ICE
that's
is
good.
ICE is. I think it's going to be something like 45,000 people this year.
Wow.
Not in total. I mean, 45,000 individuals in a fantastic venue, and it's in London. It's in Barcelona from next year, but it's genuinely is a really excellent show. And I'm delighted to say one of the other projects that I'm involved in is something called the Gaming Boardroom, which I'm developing with Kate Chambers and Greg Saint, who Greg was the event director of ICE and Kate was the MD of Clarion, and they developed it into what it is today. So yeah, you could say I have some bias, but honestly, I've always really liked ICE. It's really fucking
Good to know. Good.
If you
Well,
get
John,
a chance,
thanks for having. Yeah,
breakfast is way cheaper.
Have a proper English breakfast when I get there. Yeah.
Now you're talking. Thank you, Howard.
John, thank you so much. I enjoyed the conversation, and we'll do this again sometime.